Hi, this is Chuck Vosberg, and in this lesson we're going to learn about selections. In Photoshop, if we want to change a certain area of our picture, we have to select it. There are a number of tools for selecting a portion of the image, and we're going to start off in this lesson by taking this black oval over here on the right and moving it onto the book over here on the left. Now, in order to do that, we need to define the area that we want to move. And for the oval, we're going to use the Elliptical Marquee tool. Now, since I really need to make an accurate selection, it might be a good idea if I go to my Zoom tool at the bottom of the toolbox and zoom in on this just a little bit so we can see it more clearly. Now I'll go back to my Elliptical Marquee tool and go to select this. Now, the thing that's usually frustrating for people at first is that the oval won't line up right at first, and the problem is as we move the mouse it's just changing the size of it, but we really don't have a practical way of moving it over. And once we let go of the mouse, well, the size of it gets set, but now we can move it, but there's no way to resize it. So I'm going to deselect this so I can try again. I'm going to go to the Select menu at the top of the screen and choose Deselect. Now we're going to try it again, except we're going to learn a couple of tricks. Trick number one is, if you're selecting an ellipse or a circle, start where the corner would be if you were to draw a box around the object, which would be right about here. That will make your oval line up almost perfectly every time. But I've got another trick for you. Let me go to the Select menu at the top of the screen and choose Deselect, and we're going to try it one more time because it's not likely that it's going to line up perfectly every time. In fact, it's not likely that it'll ever line up perfectly. So I'm going to try this again, and as usual, it doesn't quite line up, but I'm not going to let go of the mouse button, because once I let go of the mouse button, the size is set, and that's it. But what I'm going to do instead is press down the space bar on the keyboard. Now, what the space bar does is it freezes the size of the oval so that it can be moved. Now, I'm going to line this up on the top and the left-hand side, and then release the space bar. Now, when I say release the space bar, I'm saying just the space bar, not the mouse button, because once we let go of the mouse, it's set. Well, now I can continue resizing. So space bar, get it lined up on the top and the left, and then release the space bar, resize it. There, that looks perfect. Now, in order to move this over onto the book, we're going to have to use the Move tool. The Move tool is the top tool in the toolbox. I'm going to go over here, click on this oval, and move it into place. Once I have this in place, I'll go to the Select menu at the top of the screen and choose Deselect. So now that oval is set in place. I'm going to take my grabber hand and move down here towards the bottom, and I'm going to select this globe next. Once again, I'll use the Elliptical Shape Selection tool. I'll click and drag. I'm going to press the space bar down to get the top and the left lined up, then release the space bar to continue resizing. Okay, there we go. So I've got this selected, and I want to put this up near the top, so I need to reduce my view. So I'll go to the magnifying glass tool, also known as the Zoom tool. Hold down the Alt since I'm on a Mac, or Option. Actually, Option is on the Mac and Alt is on Windows. Zoom out just a little bit, and then go to the Move tool and move this globe up into place. There we go. Now let me zoom back in just a little bit so we can see this more clearly. Now I'd like to make another one of these globes right next to it. And one thing I want you to know is you have the option of making a copy while you drag with the Move tool. So I've got my Move tool here, and I'm going to hold down the Option button on the Mac, or if you're working on Windows, it would be the Alt button. And I'm going to hold down that Option or Alt as I move this globe, let go of the mouse button first, and then the Alt or Option, and you'll see that it's made a copy while I've moved it. Next, I'd like to make this globe a little bit smaller. And the best tool for the job, it's under the Edit menu, and it's called Free Transform. Right here, Free Transform. Now when I choose Free Transform, it puts this box around the object that's selected. I can grab the corners and resize this object. But I don't really want to distort it accidentally, so I'm going to hold down the Shift button. The Shift button will constrain it so it keeps the same height to width ratio. Once I get this in place, I can let go of the mouse button, then the Shift. I'd also like you to know that as I move my mouse just outside the corner of this box, you might notice that the cursor changes into a curved arrow. And what that means is that I can use this to rotate the object. So clicking right on the corner resizes, moving the mouse outside the corner until you see a curved arrow allows you to rotate. Once you get this in place, you can either press the Enter button on your keyboard, or you can go up here in the top to the Options bar and click this check mark to apply your change. I'm still in my Move tool, so I'm going to press the Option button, or Alt if I were on Windows, and move to make another copy. Let go of the mouse first, then the Alt or Option, and I think I'll go under the Edit menu down to Free Transform, and scale this one down as well. Grab the corner, holding my Shift button so it doesn't get distorted. Let go of the mouse first, then the Shift. And I'll move my mouse just outside this corner and rotate this slightly. Now that it's all set, I can go up here to the top to click on the checkbox, or could press the Enter button on the keyboard. Well, now that I have that set, I'll go to the Select menu at the top of the screen and choose Deselect. So now that's all set. I'm going to click on my Zoom tool in the bottom of the toolbox, and then Fit Screen up here in the Options bar. Okay, we're off to a good start. Next, we're going to select the number 5. And the number 5 is basically all the same color, and we have a color-based selection tool for us that'll do a nice job. It's called the Magic Wand tool, and it's the fourth one down in the toolbox from the top. Now I want you to notice here that there are two Magic Wand tools. There's a Quick Selection tool and the regular Magic Wand tool. We're going to use the Quick Selection tool for this, and it works rather well. You simply click and drag across the object that you want to select, and you'll see that it's become selected. Now it did miss an area in here. It included this negative area in the 5, so I need to take that out. Well, you'll notice up here in the top in the Options bar, we've got some controls here. I'm going to click on the one with a minus right up here, and then go down here and remove the portion here in the negative area that needs to be removed. Well, that's a good quick area to select that number 5 since it's all the same color. Now I can go to my Move tool up in the top of the toolbox and click and drag and put this in place. I'm going to put it right there. Once I have it in place, go to the Select menu up in the top and choose Deselect. Okay, now we're going to deal with this flower over here. Now as flower, we're going to use a trick. What I'm going to do is go over here to the toolbox and get a rectangular marquee tool and simply make a box around this. And in doing this trick, we're going to learn something new about these selection tools. I'm going to go to my regular magic wand tool rather than the quick selection tool. Make sure my tolerance up here in the top is set to the default of 32. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Option button, or Alt if you're on Windows, and click in the white area of this box. Holding down the Option or the Alt takes away from an existing selection. So in this case, it took away anything that was white within that rectangular box, which left us the flower. And that saved us a lot of time. So I'm going to go to my Move tool over here in the toolbox and move this flower into position. I think I'll put it right there. And then go to the Select menu at the top of the screen and choose Deselect. The next thing we're going to select and move up is the pen down in the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I can see this more clearly. And since this pen is something that really isn't going to work well with our magic wand tool or any of the other tools that we've learned so far, we're going to have to trace around it to select it. So I'm going to go to the Lasso Tool. Right here in the toolbox, it's the third one down. And the way this tool works is you simply click and drag and trace around this object. I'm going to make a mistake. Whoops, made another mistake. Now, it's not likely that I'm going to be able to go all the way around this thing without making any mistakes. And you can see here, indeed, I made some big mistakes. So I'm going to go to the Zoom tool and zoom in on this so you can see it better. And I need to be able to fix these mistakes. Now, first of all, I need to take away this section. Well, you already know the trick. I'm going to go to my Lasso tool, and you may recall that holding down the Option button, or the Alt if you're on a Windows machine, will take away from an existing selection. So check this out. I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt, loop around the part I want to take away, and when I let go of the mouse, it's gone. I can do the same thing down here, holding down the Option or the Alt, loop around the part I want to get rid of, and it's gone. Now this piece here needs to be added in. The Shift button lets you add to a selection. So I'm going to hold down the Shift, loop around the part that I need to add, and you'll see that that part's been added. So now let me show you another tool. I'm going to deselect this for now because this pen has mostly straight parts to it, and it's very difficult to drag a straight line with the Lasso tool. So the people at Adobe made us a Lasso tool that's specifically designed for making straight parts. The Polygon Lasso tool. Now the way this tool works is we don't click and drag with it, we just click. So I'm going to click, and you can see it makes a straight line in between each click. So I'll go down here, click, 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 click. Continue on down here. Get down to this other part of the pen here in just a moment. There we go. Click, and click. You can see I'm just clicking on the corners of this because this is almost entirely straight parts. This will just take me a moment to do. This is a whole lot faster than trying to trace all the way around this with a regular Lasso tool for sure. So I'll just click through this quickly. Almost finished. Then I'm going to come right back up where I started and click to finish it off. So now I've got most of the pen selected. Now for the end cap of the pen, well, this is curved, so this tool is really not going to do a nice job on it. So I'm going to switch back to my regular lasso tool and add the cap on. Now to add on to a selection, we're going to need to hold down the Shift button. So I'm going to hold down the Shift, start inside the selection I already have, and then trace around this end cap. Let go of the mouse first. Then that's been added. Well, I'm going to go to my magnifying glass tool and then click up here in the options bar to fit screen. I've got my pen selected, so I'll go to the Move tool and move this on up. I'd like to rotate this pen a little bit, so I'll go to the Edit menu at the top of the screen and choose Free Transform. Move my mouse just outside one of the corners of this Free Transform box so I get the curved arrow, and then drag this, move it into place, and when it's finished I can either press the Enter button on the keyboard or go up here to the options bar and click the little check box to apply it. Then go to Select and Deselect. Now in the classroom we select this little lock and key as using the same methods and put it in the middle. But for this lesson we'll just leave it at this. And there's just one step left to finish this off. And that's to crop away all this extra stuff around the edges, because we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to go to the cropping tool here in the toolbox. Click and drag. It shows my area that I'm going to crop. There are handles around the corners and on the sides where you can adjust your cropping area if necessary. And then finally, when I'm finished, you can either click the little check box up here in the top in the options bar, or you can press Enter on the keyboard to apply it. And then that's a finished project. Looks rather nice. Now before I close on this, I'd like to show you one other little thing that can trip you up. For the cropping tool, you can assign a width and a height for this tool. Now if you'd previously assigned a width and a height, you'll have to take those out in order to crop any size you want. If there are numbers in this width and height field, take them out. You can click the Clear button up here in the options bar to make that happen. Or you can simply select them and press Delete. Well, good luck with your project. It's just that easy.